All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Perth Weekly Market Update. Today, we got Hasi here with us. Really excited for today's episode. A lot that we're going to be going over. Perth Market as a whole. We're going to be talking to Hasi, amazing local real estate agent. He's going to be giving us his insights. From there, we're going to be jumping into one of the really hot LGAs in Perth, city of Gosnells, looking at that area as a whole, and then we're going to be looking at one particular suburb that we've picked up for you today. Look at some of the data around the suburb, but most importantly, we're here to get some really good insight from Hasi and how you can ensure that you can close on a deal, right? I think that's the big thing that a lot of people are missing on. So yeah, thanks for dialing in again. Let's jump straight into it before we talk about all the stuff that we're here to talk about today. Let's get Hasi to give himself an intro. Hasi, tell us a little bit about yourself. Uh, Tell us everything, Hasi.
Hey man, thanks Zaki for the opportunity. It's very exciting to be on. From the Perth side, a little bit about me. Started real estate by accident in 2005, and straight out of uni. Now 19 years since then. Same company. Now we own the company. We manage around 470 houses, and three of us, Ravi, myself, and David, own the company. And yeah, pretty much, man. So we sell all the way from Belmont District right through to Armadale. But yeah, all our career we've been in that sort of space, and it's going off at the moment.
Beautiful. Oh yeah, going off is an understatement. Yeah, and I think like I like the statement started by accident. I feel like we all started real estate by accident. Then it becomes the passion. Thanks for joining us, Hasi. Really looking forward to getting your insights on pretty much everything Perth and your local knowledge as well. So we usually like to start the session off with just like a broader Perth market update before jumping into your specific area and some of the stuff that you're looking at. So let's start off with just an update on the Perth market. I think this is from Real Estate Institute WA or REWA, however you want to say that. Over the last 1 week, Perth up 0.4%, which is crazy. Over the last month, 1.8%, and year to date, 8.9%, and 21.4% over the last 12 months, right? So I've been doing quite a lot of buying in Perth for my clients, and I'm sure you've been doing a lot of selling in Perth. Something changed over the last since the beginning of this year, right? I remember like November, it wasn't like it was still crazy, but it wasn't as like these days, it's almost impossible to purchase inputs. It's really competitive. Like even as a BA, you got to act extremely fast, clients got to be ready, and you got to be really competitive. What do you think is driving a lot of this growth? What's happened here at the turn of the new year?
100% Zaki. Now we did see 2023 towards the back end of 23. We thought, okay, the market's great. Come November, December, we had the stock just tiny bit increased, and we did see like, okay, look, starting to slow down. Maybe we will get to that time where we actually see a plateau in the market. Came back from the break, come to January, come Feb, bang. No one was prepared for it, and the market just skyrocketed. The inquiry from the east just came flooding in. The local market, because of the rent, it's crazy hot at the moment. And from, like you said, this year, there's an unprecedented market. I remember one of my friends who's been doing this for about 40 years now, he said 2013, 14 was a once in a generational boom. Remember those exact words distinctively. Now, I spoke to him last week and he said, mate, have you ever seen like this again? It's amazing. And then I still think there's a lot more growth to be happening in Perth.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, with supply where it's at least for the next 12 months, I don't think anyone can deny. I think like people are thinking more like long term. But yeah, I think a point that you mentioned over there, a little phrase that I picked up, you said over from East. From a lot of the listings that you're doing, a lot of the sales that you're doing, are you still getting a lot of inquiries from Eastern state investors, interstate investors? What's the mix? Because obviously over 23, 22, even 21 interstate investors, our clients and the clients for a lot of BAs were purchasing up in Perth. Are you still seeing a lot of interstate investors? What do those numbers look like?
Yeah, we're getting a lot at the moment. So we're selling that sub. 500 to 700 mark from East Cannington right through to Armadale. So that market, the yield is still very, very good. There's a lot of development stock being snapped up by the east. A lot of buyers from Melbourne and Sydney. I just did two deals today, both to one to Melbourne and one to Sydney. Even I had a property for 1.36 million in Como. Now that was that's a very unique home. Again, that got snapped up by a bloke from Melbourne. So yeah, still the inquiry is very, very hot for from that space. But the local market here is very active as well, Zaki. On the ground, first home buyers are still they're coming in droves to get in. Just because the rents are so high and people are thinking, oh, look, why am I renting if I can buy the space? So that price is just being pushed up and up and up at the moment.
Yeah, no, that's good insight. And I think like one of the things that we're seeing in Perth and across Australia as a whole, and this is from again from Rewa, is uh where's the numbers over here, right? Last week's total figure of properties available for sale is 8% lower than what it was 4 weeks ago, and 41% lower than the same time a year ago, right? So it's like
Amazing, right?
stock on market is just so low. And obviously that's where a lot of the competition is coming from. What do you think is causing, from like your local experience, what do you think is causing the stock on market to be so low?
I think COVID, yeah, had a bit to play. Development didn't happen, so when the replenishment of stock it just took so long. So investors didn't come into the market from 2015 to 2020. So, and then what happened? The COVID came. That never got replaced. I think this is Australia wide. The borders open and the pipe was only that big,
Yeah.
but the gushing of water just could not hold, and everybody just kept on coming. So, like I said, anecdotally, we manage 470 homes, and some of those homes you are getting that subletting at the moment because still there is a lack of properties available to rent. So it's really the rental market that's driving this demand
Hmm.
at the moment, Zaki, and we're still getting so many students coming over. Perth, they've changed the migration laws. They've made this a hub for people to actually come. And plus Sydney and Melbourne just being so unaffordable. You can spend $1 million and you still got to be 50 k's out of the city. So whereas Perth, 13 k's, you can get a beautiful home. So
Yeah, I think like one anecdote, like for one like anecdote for a client, we purchased something, I think it was late last year. And I remember we got the rental low 400s, we got the rental appraisal and 480 to 500, and we were happy with that. And when we put it up to rent after settlement, it ended up renting for 560, right? And there was like
yeah,
60 applications. I mean, the property manager did a really good job, and it was just like so competitive, right? I think the other point that I completely agree with, which you hit on, is that internal migration, right? A lot of people are moving to Perth, both from interstate as well as I think like there's this phenomenon of, back in the day, people coming from Sri Lanka, where we're from, India, wherever, when they move to Australia, the only cities they know is Melbourne or Sydney. Maybe if
yes,
they're lucky, they know about Brisbane, right? But
yeah.
like back in the day, it's like direct pipeline, either Melbourne or Sydney. But these days, you get a decent amount of people going to Perth, going to Brisbane, because they're like, this actually looks more affordable. It looks like a good lifestyle. So you get like people coming in with decent money, moving to these. Like a lot of people assume, when people are moving from, overseas here, they're coming with no cash in their pocket. But a lot of these people are coming with 400K in their pocket. And
They got more
we
money than us.
yeah, yeah, I know because like we have a few of them as clients. They come on and they're like, "Look, we're moving here. We got 400K. We want to buy a house to move into, right?" And yeah, like that's like again, I think another thing that's this big demand for migration. There's a lack of supply from like not enough bills as well as price of commodities, like price of building materials going up, is kind of like created this intense storm of prices just going up, right? Which I mean, if you're an investor, is a good thing. If for those trying to buy a home, it's obviously becoming a bit more competitive.
Yeah.
Let's pivot into away from Perth as a whole to talk about. I know you do more than just City of Gosnells, but for this session, I do want to focus on City of Gosnells as it's an area that you're, I'd say, like one of the best in. What's this particular market looking like? Obviously, we know over the last 12 months, growth has been like really aggressive. I mean, I think looking at some of these numbers from the date, like from what we have, I feel like these numbers are actually quite maybe lower than what's actually true. Like I feel like Gosnells is probably, from what I'm seeing and what I remember 12 months ago, it's probably up closer to 30%, right? But what
Yeah,
are you
yeah.
seeing on the market here in these suburbs? What are things looking like?
So for example, Zagila, for people that don't know too much about the city of Gosnells, it's a big area. It's an old suburb. A lot of that migration happened in the 1970s as well. You know, a lot of the houses were built in, I would say 65 to about 79. That's where the English migrants came over, and lot of them settled in these areas. Gosnells and Maddington, they're big suburbs, right? They're big suburbs compared to Beckenham, for example. You might have 3,000 homes, so that's why the sales are a little bit low in that area, because it's so affordable and the infrastructure went in. So the government built a few highways, just made it so much easier to get to CBDA, just ease the traffic flow. And they put so much. Perth is more of a planned city, right? Unlike Melbourne, Perth, because we're like you said, you know, the back burner, no one really cared. We moved very slowly, but because of the slow movement, we managed to put things in better. It was a more planned city, right? And so these suburbs, what's happened is a lot of the infrastructure is still getting built. So you would know what Metro at the moment.
Yeah.
So they're spending billions. So the trailway line is going through. So Beckenham, Gosnells, Kenwick, Maddington, Thornley, all these areas are getting upgraded. And the other thing, what's driving these markets, Zach, is before when we came in 1992, I went to school in Beckenham actually. So though, and I grew up in Armadale. So these areas were very low socioeconomic areas, right? So, and then with the growth of the prices, if you look at who's moving into these properties now, we did a sale in Maddington a couple of weeks ago, and he is a Sri Lankan engineer, young guy, and he's paid $650,000. So a lot of the good money is coming in. The infrastructure is really been improving in the area, and people moving into these areas have really improved. So
Mm.
the schools then are improving. As you know, if we have good schools, then the prices go up. So migrants, they flock around good schools. So for example, Thornley High School, if you look, it's performed really well in the last 5 years.
Mm.
Beckenham's got really good three private school. Queen's Park's got an awesome couple of schools as well. Gosnells has got another really good private school. So now education is coming up as well. So, and plus the shopping centers are all being redeveloped, you know, all
Yeah.
being done.
Beautiful. I mean, these are the golden nuggets that we look for from our local experts, right? I think like one of the things is maybe one question that we get quite often. So like when we talk about like Perth, a lot of people are skeptical. Like when you think of like housing commission, low socioeconomic, I think a lot of people think city of Armadale, but like some people think that I guess is some of that has a trickle effect into city of Gosnells. How would you address people that have those sort of questions? What sort of gentrification? What is the socio-economic landscape of this area look like?
Now, a really good question. Now, I can answer this from personal experience as well. And I point out Beckenham. So when we first came here, we grew up in Armadale. I went to school in Beckenham, right? So where in the early mid 2000s, my cousins came over, and one of my cousins, you know, he lives in Beckenham now. So he said, "Oh, shall I buy in Beckenham?" We went and asked my uncle. My uncle said, "Oh, why do you want to buy in Beckenham? It's one of those suburbs, you know. The rap is not that good." But now what's happening, all these guys who just started coming through, the area's been really improved, right? And when people speak of those things, they speak of those areas that actually haven't been to these areas in a while. For example, my uncle's never been back to Beckenham, right?
Mm,
He's speaking of 1990, not 2005 or 2008. So
mm,
that's the thing. So a lot of those stigmas that surrounding these areas, they're old ideas. It's
mm.
changed. If you
Yeah.
look at the people that are living there now, it's completely different to
Mhm.
when these suburbs were given um, a tagline, say, "Oh, you're in Armadale."
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think that word stigma is the correct word. It's like a lot of it is somebody who hasn't been to that suburb in like 20 years, and it's like they just remember it being the low
Yeah.
socioeconomic, the problematic, the housing commission, the high crime suburbs, so on and so forth. But a lot of these areas have gone, like, as they've become better connected to the city, have gone through that process of gentrification. Beautiful. All right. One other question that I have for you, right? A lot of, I guess, interstate buyers budget is 550 to 700K when they're looking in these areas, right? Maybe 750K at the max, right? Two questions. Firstly, sub 600K, like people who are below 600K on their budget or max budget of 600K, which areas or which suburbs do you recommend them focusing on in this in city of Gosnells, if that is still even possible at that budget, or do they have to go further out to city of Armadale or other areas?
Now, good question. I think sub 600s, you're sort of stopping at Beckenham. Canningville, you're sort of priced out at that mark.
Yeah,
Kenwick, you're still in. Langford, you're still in. Maddington, you're still in.
yeah,
Southern River, you're priced out. Thornley, you're still in.
yeah.
Thornley's now getting to that 6 to 650 mark as well. Beckenham depends on the property that you're looking at. So if you're looking at a yield property like a survey strata, no fees, 3x1, built in the 90s, you can still pick something up for about 550 that will return around 600
Yeah,
bucks a week.
yeah,
If you're looking at a 900 square meter retain and build in Beckenham, now you're looking 650 to 680. So now you're looking from Kenwick, Gosnells, Maddington, Camillo, Kelmscott, Armadale, those sections
yeah.
for that sort of price point. And then before I forget, one of the things that I think the listeners will appreciate, and you may not know this already, City of Gosnells is doing a massive zoning change.
Mhm.
Okay, they're doing a massive zoning change. So these are the little things that your buyers can pick onto because some of the out of area agents got no idea
Mm.
that these properties are being rezoned.
Exactly. Yeah. And
Okay.
that's something we actively look for and like work with local real estate agents. Which are the pockets that are being rezoned? So it's like it has a lot more development potential, right? Like
Yeah.
from like R whatever to R20 to R50 or R20 to R4, whatever it's being rezoned from and to, it's like it gives them a lot more potential to do stuff with it, right? Which are some of the suburbs that we're seeing a lot of the rezoning in?
So they're doing the whole of the city of Gosnells. So the city of Gosnells is they're changing the whole zoning for that their shire.
Yeah.
The base zoning is going up from R17.5 to R20. But a
Yeah.
lot of the, for example, R35 properties or R30, so corner blocks in the city of Gosnells, you get an automatic R30 zoning, right? So if it's a 700 square meter block,
Yeah.
you can then get 2 units. But now these are being zoned to R40.
Yeah.
All right. So, and if the agent doesn't know, and especially now the market being so hot, agents from our area coming in, but they don't do the background checks, and some of them are actually selling these without the proposed rezoning. And all of a sudden, the R30 goes to R40 instead of, and you can get something for 220 square meters a lot, right? So your 2 units turns into 3 units.
Exactly. Yeah. And then it
Right.
becomes
So,
a really good buy.
yeah, all of a sudden, yeah, there's an amazing buy.
Exactly. Yeah, no, beautiful.
Yeah.
I think that's really good insight. The one other question I had over here is for people coming like budget not too much of an issue, they can flex 600 to 700, even 750, and they want to purchase in this LGA, where do you think they're getting their best value for money as investors?
I still think Beckenham, not because I do a lot there, but I still think Beckenham is one of those undervalued suburbs. Okay, this because the suburb is so small, you're 12 to 13 kilometers from Perth.
Hmm.
Okay, and the people that are buying in there and they're still living there are very, very high net worth individuals as well. So a lot of the buyers that are buying their 150, $200,000 incomes, and the suburbs is laid out beautifully. There's only two main streets,
Hmm.
right? So you got two main streets and the suburbs divided. So when you go, it's tree lined. It's just got one of those feelings when you drive around. It just gives you a really, I don't know, it's just in your
Bougie.
skin, you feel like you're home, you
Yeah.
know? So I still think 12 Ks and you can pick something up for like 650 to 750 and for long-term hold is
Hmm.
perfect.
Yeah, and it hasn't had that like as I mean it's definitely grown, but the growth hasn't been as aggressive as some of the other suburbs just yet. So hopefully can like pick up some of that, catch up, and go from there. I mean, even if we're looking at the last one year, beautiful. That's really good insight as well. Okay. Let's jump into, I guess, some of the stats around these areas and get some of your thoughts on it as well. So very quickly, home ownership 69%. This is the broader LGA. Pretty good number. We generally look for a minimum of 60% in terms of home ownership for the areas that we're looking at, but obviously it'll depend on the asset type and what the client's looking for. 37.2% couple and children, which is a pretty good number as well. And couples, 21.9%. Again, that kind of shows that most households have that stronger income, stronger structure. So that's good. In terms of employment by industry, large amount in the healthcare industry, retail, construction, pretty aggressive population growth as well. This is just some of the basic numbers. Again, one thing for those watching, if you'd like access to any of these documents, any of the data, feel free to message us and we'll send you a form to fill out and we can send you any of the data you're looking for. But let's come back to it, right? So generally, Hasi, what is the demographic of this broader LGA look like? I know it's a huge LGA, so I'm assuming it varies. But what are some of your insights around the demographics and of the area?
In the 19 years, Jackie, that I've been involved in this section here, it's mainly been migrants that have been coming into the area.
Mhm.
Okay. So if families, as the stats do say, it's the families that are moving in. Professionals, they used to say blue collar. So a lot of professionals, young professionals, our age, I would say young now, 30 to 45 age group moving in.
Mhm.
And because of the improvement in the schooling,
Mhm.
you are getting that more family oriented persona in these suburbs now, especially in that Beckenham, Kenwick sort of area as well.
Okay, beautiful. That's yeah. So it's like when you say migrants, are we seeing more skilled migrants or is it more like blue collar type migrants that are working like trade type jobs? What is the mix of?
Yep. So you're getting a mix actually. So for example, Maddington, I remember in 2008 we sold a few to for Afghanis. Right now that there's a huge population of Afghanis, beautiful people that's living in Maddington, Gosnells, and Southern River. Okay, and these guys they're just so talented with
Yeah.
their hands, man. Like the stuff that they do to their homes, and when they build houses.
Mm,
They're beautiful properties that just got their high-end finish.
mm,
So that's why the quality of the homes have just gone from here to here. Some of those homes that these boys have built is just out of this world. So Maddington, yeah, Southern River and Gosnells, they got a heap of Afghanis living as well. They actually just they bought a site from us to build their mosque as well in Maddington. So yeah, so that's why that's the area there. Whereas Beckenham, you got more of a Kerala, Sri Lankans,
mm.
Chinese, Asian sort of market buying in that section.
Nice. Yeah. For me personally, whenever I'm looking for where I need to live, the one of the priorities is there an Afghan restaurant within 5? Because if there isn't, like I can't survive. I need my Afghani
Yeah.
food.
Man,
Huge.
you'll survive in Maddington, no dramas.
I love it in Maddington. Have to swing by on my next Perth trip. Beautiful. Okay, let's jump into. We'll power through it because obviously I'm cautious of time. Like there's still so much for us to discuss. I want to talk about some of the major highlights of the area, and a lot of this stuff you've already mentioned, right? Which we'll just quickly go
Yeah.
over. So a few of the things, like some of the economic highlights that we've put down over here. So Gosnells is sixth largest LGA in Western Australia, large population aggressively growing. That's always good. Seeing areas that have like good population growth. Then the other one over here is like there's a lot of a lot of infrastructure being spent. You already mentioned like a few of the major projects. For those listening, if you'd like a table of all of the major projects in Gosnells in this particular LGA, you can message us, and that's something we can send out through to you as well. Uh, Another point that you touched on, the schools are really growing, and in addition to that, some good hospitals over there, expansions to them, and a decent amount happening at TAFE campus. So some pretty good stuff in the area that's being developed, right? Some of the stuff that we have over here is really big spend on transport infrastructure. And I'm a really big believer that if you can invest in areas where transport infrastructure is happening, that it's like, especially if they're on the outer skirts of capital cities. I think like over the last few years, like that in a lot of people have picked up this investment thesis of investing in areas on the outer skirts of capital cities that are getting better connectivity, housing affordability, and yeah, just like heaps of stuff. Some of these aren't exactly in Maddington but or in Gosnells, but in surrounding areas, and those effects are coming towards it. Are there any other major highlights that you see of City of Gosnells that you think are like these are like pretty big ones that are going to be major drivers of growth, and just reasons for people to live there?
You've covered pretty much everything there, like Tonkin and the Metro net we've covered. That's probably the biggest one that we have. City of Canning as well, which is the next door neighboring LGA. Now they're doing a lot of work as well, so that you get that flow effect from both. So there's Cannington there, and then we got City of Gosnell. So they're doing a heap of work near Westfield Carousel. So yeah, it's just that all that circle there, man. There's so much work going on. You just need to come and see how many cranes are actually up in the air.
Yeah.
It'll show how good the state
Yeah,
is going.
yeah, nice. And it's like again, like in capital cities, these LGAs, they don't grow in isolation, right? Like
Yeah,
they that trickle effect from like one LGA into the other, right?
yeah.
Obviously, we're analyzing them individually, but that element is there. Tonkin Highway, I think like you pretty much mentioned all of this stuff, which just shows that you have the knowledge, right? So I want to jump into talking about a specific suburb and the data around that suburb, like the supply demand data. And then we'll end off by looking at some of the recently solds and talk about actual properties that are selling day to day. And basically, I think the most important thing is how people can, better secure investment properties and or like investment properties or their own home. Before we jump into that, any final thoughts on the LGA as a whole? I think we've covered it for 30 minutes. I feel like we've done a
Yeah.
pretty decent job.
No, it's one of those LGAs. There's still poised for growth. It's very affordable at the moment. Like what you got to look at, the road infrastructure from the city to Armadale from is really improved. The railways is getting improved as well. It's very central to the airport. So you're within from Armadale within 15-20 minutes you're in the airport. So yeah, a lot of work going. It's one of those LGAs. I think there's still a lot of room for growth.
Beautiful. All right. Let's jump into. So I just picked this suburb randomly. Like I think you'll see like a lot of the data in the other suburbs in the LGA are quite similar. And basically what I want to do is we'll quickly power through the data, but I want to get your insights in terms of, does the data roughly match what you're seeing on the ground? And if not, like, what is it more? Is it less? What's happening, right? So we have over here growth over the last 3, 12, 36 months. I actually think this is probably lower than what it actually is. And median price is definitely higher than that. What's what a what's what's the median price for a lot of like freestanding homes that you're seeing in Maddington as a suburb?
So Maddington, man, so we've been in there since 2006 in Maddington. We personally, Ravina and I, invested in Maddington. We got properties there as well. So yeah, at the moment, it's one of those suburbs. Again, it's centrally located. Like I said, the Afghanis are going in there. They're building beautiful homes. Average home. So if you're looking for a 4x2, a new house, bordering into Southern River, we're selling them in the 700s, 650 to 750 is now where we're getting.
Mhm.
Okay. If you're getting a good 3x1 renovated 683 square meter block, tends to be the average block size in these areas. You're seeing between 600 to 650. The unit market's really picked up as well, and that's selling in the high fours to even early fives. So yeah, man. So that's really where they're selling at the moment. So 4x2s in the new estate, you're getting from 650 to 750.
Nice. And let's say an Eastern state interstate investor budget 550K to 600K wants to invest in Maddington. what should he be reasonably expecting to pick up?
They can get definitely 683 square meter blocks, but may need a little bit of work done to the property as well.
Yeah.
Definitely, you can get the street front villas in there. You can get the properties that have no strata fees. At the moment, those are really in demand. Okay, so that's if you can pick those up because they were a little bit late to take off. And
Yeah.
the yield on those are pretty good. So if you can pick something up between 450 and 550, you're getting a very good yield on those.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're seeing. That's generally what we see, right? Like the in any suburb, once the
Yeah.
housing market is towards the latter stage, the unit market picks up and catches up from like all the homeowners who can no longer afford, or just like in general, right?
And Maddington, so they've got a local shopping centre there, right? So there's a nice Sri Lankan curry shop there as well. So I was there on Sunday. One of
My
my
next trip down,
yeah,
I
yeah.
know where we're catching up. Gotta get some kottu roti.
Man, yeah, not nice Tamil boys actually. You walk in there, you walk out, it feels like you've been in Sri Lanka, your clothes. So they've just fully renovated that whole shopping precinct. So when you go there, so if you went there 4 years ago, you think, geez, it's very dark, it's dated. You go in there now, everything's just been renovated, everything's come out of the shopping center. They're putting a heap of more restaurants and shops, and one of my friends are doing a grocery store there as well. New 7-Eleven coming. So yeah, so more work going into that area. Just
Oh,
being completed actually in about a couple of months.
beautiful. Nice. Let's next talk about rental market and what we're seeing there. So the data I have says that our team is prepared says 0.78%, which is, I mean, that's very low already. What how long are like properties taking to be leased once? So like let's say a person, an interstate investor or any investor picks them up and then they do the rental through you guys. How long are these properties taking to be leased? How many rental applications are we getting in? What is that the rental market looking like?
Oh, at the moment, it's still as crazy as ever. Like we're leasing them within 2 weeks.
Wow.
We are taking them a lot of them to market just so everybody gets the opportunity to actually rent them.
Yeah.
Again, man, like no dramas with leasing. Is yeah, within 2 weeks you're renting 650, 700, 750. Some of them.
Yeah, wow. Okay. Sweet. There you go. I don't think there's much more to add there. Days on market, this number looks very low, and I wouldn't be surprised.
Uh,
Like, I mean, for us, we're doing like pretty much majority of our Perth deals off market. And like what are the days on market looking like for properties that you guys are getting after sign up? How quickly are they selling?
Within 14 days.
Yeah, there you go. Like,
Yeah.
and demand super high. Like
Still very high. One of the reasons is like, man, so the housing guarantee by the government, like so no lender's mortgage insurance. That's up to 600,000,
yeah.
right? I think in Melbourne and Sydney you get up to 1 million where they guarantee you. So
Uh,
here is 600,000. So what happens there is because of that 600 cutoff
yeah.
from Kenwick or anything sub 600 down is just crazy from the local market as well for first home buyers because then they get the lower interest rate plus then they can enter in without paying LMI.
There you go. There you
That's
go.
why.
Yeah, interesting. And like when on like your average property, what percentage of like offers are you seeing from investors compared to people looking to purchase their own home?
Again, there's a lot of first time buyers under 600,000. I had a property in Kenwick, 23 Adana Alba, right? So I did an auction on online auction.
Yeah.
We had
Is
100
that
and
like a freestanding home or like a
freestanding, green title, sub 500 square meters, 3 by 2, beautiful renovated.
yeah.
Small house. It's only about 115 square meters. We had 101 inspections in three opens.
Oh, there you go. 101
Yeah,
inspections.
yeah,
That's pretty hectic.
that
Yeah.
is unbelievable. 37 offers.
Yeah. And that one closed off.
Yeah, it's closed off at 653.
653. Oh wow, there you go. And did that end up going to someone a local
I
home?
own occupier, yeah, but I had a lot of interest around that 620, 630 from investors.
Yeah, I can imagine. Okay, beautiful. This one, don't want to hop on it too much. Online listing, market demand, just like your online demand, aggressively growing, and it seems like it's progressively on the up. Sales listings, we can see still very low, from back from like 2020, 2021. This is just the fact that like stock on market is extremely low, right? As
Yeah.
soon as it comes, it's gone, right? Like there's no time being wasted, right? Like 14 days, like heaps of stuff being like I know like sometimes you see like a property being listed on real estate and you call the agent and it's already sold because they sold it off market, but they just put it up there to like show that it's up there, right? Which I mean, like it's marketing, right? But like a lot of stuff being sold off market, pre-market, whatever you want to call it, just a lot of stock going really fast. Median rent aggressively growing as well. Do you see the rent continuing to grow, or do you think it's coming to a halt? What are some of your thoughts on what you're seeing on the ground?
At the moment, I reckon for the next, because we are heavily hands-on property management as well, Robin, myself, and David. So we're still seeing the rent market creeping up. Again, there's not enough stock. Therefore, just the demand is so high and the supply is low. Until that sort of comes back to that 4.5, 5.5% sort of vacancy rate, we don't see this slowing down.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay. Same rental yield hovered roughly at the same amount, not because rent hasn't. I think like whenever I explain this graph to people, I'm like, the rental yield going down doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. It just might mean that prices are growing faster than rent,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So like some people, they're like, oh, why is the rental yield going down? It's like, no, it's not a bad thing. It just means that prices are
Yeah.
growing pretty aggressively, right? Another thing that we can see, and I think it's like an Australia-wide phenomenon, the amount of new houses being built are quite low, right? Just because of multiple reasons, right? That replenishment stock from COVID, that like price of builds, like building materials gone up quite a lot. And I think again, this really low amount of new builds, really low stock and market, another main driver of growth. Any other thoughts around here around Maddington as a suburb before we jump into some recently sold?
Yeah, no, just again, just overall, like blocks weren't selling for the last 2 or 3 years, but then all of a sudden in the last 3 months, all our blocks have just gone, right? So blocks have just started to move as well.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, nice. We actually have a question here from the audience, and it says, uh, what, sorry, it says, hi, what do you think about buying in VVS home and land package by the river around 800K? Is that a good investment?
VVS,
Yeah, I'm not even too sure about that area.
we'll have to have a look at that one, man.
Yeah, same. I'm not a home and land package specialist, so I think we will touch base on that one and come back to it. Let's look at some of your recently sold and discuss them and hopefully get some of your insight on these, what things look like, what the process was like, and go from there. I think we already discussed this one, 23
Yeah.
Adana. Alb, you mentioned that it was really aggressive. A lot of people sub 600 looking for the purchase ended up going for 651. Amazing sale. Great job there. Uh, let's talk about this one over here. 5 Spagnolo Place,
What's
Beckenham.
Magnolia? Yeah, actually, we this was sold to a iron occupier in the end, but I did have a Sydney doctor looking at this one as well. So 775, beautiful home. Again, there's the locations there. Cul-de-sac location.
Yeah,
You can walk to the new train station from there. Amazing home, plenty of space. 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. There's a study there as well. So great location. Yeah, man. So those ones now in Beckenham are between 775 to 800,000. So if you pick that up and put it in Maddington, you would probably see around that one there about very high sixes.
there you go. There you go. Beautiful. You got this one over here, 35 Galaxy.
I'll put this one in there just for your listeners there. Look, these are the properties that you can add value to.
Yeah,
You can see this one here has been you can knock the house down and build two, or retain the front house, and you can then, if you got the extra money, you can build a granny flat there. The house just is block value, but the structure is good. So if you got people on the ground here, you can really add value. And we sold this for 500,000 to a local buyer, but we did have buyers from these bidding on this at 500.
yeah.
This is one of those properties that you could have made 15% by doing something.
Yeah, there you go. Like just renovate and add a granny or knock down and
Granny if they knock down or build. So because I know a lot of the eastern states buyers, they're high net buyers, and a lot of them got budgets up to a mil. So a mil 1.5 they can afford to spend. So
got room
properties.
to do stuff on top of it as well.
Yeah, so properties like this, they can buy 500,000, do the subdivision, build two houses, and you can then either rent one or sell one. Because of the way the market is, you'll get the uptick of the renovations or you'll get the uptick of the build. Yeah, look at properties like this because what I found was a lot of East buyers, they tend not to buy properties that need doing work.
Mhm.
But if you can pick the right property up, yeah, you can then definitely get a good return out of them.
And to have that extra bit of cash, you can
Yeah.
definitely, right? 20 Pudding Green, Maddington. How did this go? What was the
A beautiful, beautiful location again. So this subdivision was a new subdivision that's maybe in, so you can go down there, Harmony Fields. So
yeah.
Harmony Fields, we went to these auction actually as well when they did the whole that land subdivision. They got the cricket playing grounds where we play cricket as well.
Yeah.
So these ones here, if you again, it's just the location is perfect. You can from here where the house is, you can go directly onto Tonkin Highway, hit the airport or the city, and then we get a lot of fly in, fly out people buying in that little section as well.
Nice. There you go. A lot of FIFO people over there. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. And then finally, 22 Hibiscus Road, Maddington, 570K.
Yeah, 3x1. Now, this is a standard story for these areas, right? So Ravine sells a heap of these. Yeah, what can you say again? 3x1, solid homes. You can add value to these properties as well. And a lot of these guys are now with the change in the granny flat laws
Yeah.
in late times. So a lot of the people are buying to actually get that extra income.
Mhm. Yeah, nice. Yeah, yeah. I think like a big thing whenever we get like clients, especially in Perth, they're like, does it have granny flat potential? You don't know how many times I hear that question. It's like sometimes I'm just doing some cooking. I'll be like in my mind, I'm like, does it have granny flat potential? It's like Eastern state investors, they love, even if they're not going to put in on it anytime soon, they like
Yeah.
the idea of purchasing a property with granny flat potential and with the granny flat laws in Perth. For those of you who don't know, we can send you some documentation around the granny flat laws in Perth. You can do your research online. It's pretty much one of the best states across Australia to put up a granny flat in terms of tenancy laws and just the ability to lease it out compared to and the new laws coming up as well around approvals and stuff like that's going to make it even easier.
They've taken out the minimum lot sizes, so you can build one in there. You'll have normally the 75 square meters per the granny flat, but you don't need a 300 square meter backyard anymore. So
Exactly.
that
Whereas like
positive cash flow is what people are looking at.
yeah, whereas like Adelaide, South Australia, Victoria, granny flat is like it's a bit more of a complex strategy, right? Whereas in Perth, it's actually not that complex. So yeah, no, beautiful. So some pretty solid sales over here. Really great job for all of you guys listening. If you guys do have any properties that you want to put up for sale in this southeast corridor in Perth, definitely hit east southeast corridor. Definitely hit up Hasi and the team from Porter Matthews. They'll be able to get you. I'm pretty sure, as you can see, a great deal. So I think Hasi, the next thing that I wanted to touch base on, and I think this is pretty much what a lot of people are here for today, is what can let's start off with first home actually homeowners investors. How can they, what advice do you have for them to better be able to close on a property, right? I mean, apart from using a BA, which we'd
Yeah.
recommend, but like outside of that, like what can they do? Like I'm getting a lot of people, they book in a session with me and they're like, I've been trying to purchase for Perth in the last 7 months. I've put in 40 offers and this and that. And like, a lot of people are struggling, whether they're homeowners, Eastern state investors. How can they approach buying better to get a good deal done?
Yeah, I think to start with, what you got to realize is what I tell all my clients. So if you're selling, you got to think like a buyer. What is the buyer thinking? What are they going to be thinking on their behalf, right?
Yeah.
And I tell my buyers, I said, look, when you're buying, think like a seller. What are these guys thinking? What do these guys want? We just sit there to make the deal happen. But then when you're buying through an agent, real estate agent, our real job is to look after and try and get the best price for the seller, right? So I think this is where the buyers need to be well informed and using a buyer agent. That's what I found, especially from these. We get a lot of calls from just buyers, which is very sometimes hard to deal with. But if you're coming through a BA, it's just they know what they want, they're clear on what they want, they're precise, they ask the good questions, they're not getting trapped as well.
Yeah.
Have all the finances ready as well, Zach. Some of the guys they come, if you can get a fully assessed pre-approval where it's good as cash, subject to evaluation coming through, that's gonna then obviously sway the owner as well. So if you get 5 offers on a property and you can say, hey, look, I've been fully assessed up to this amount,
Yeah.
everything's being ticked off.
Yeah.
If the valuation stacks up, my money's good, and I'll get your finance in 2 days.
Yeah.
Obviously, that'll come as well. So give strong conditions to the owner. So the other thing coming from the eastern states is there's a lot of conditions. Okay, some of the conditions are, yes, they're there to help you guys as the buyer, but actually it's not so great for the seller. And when you're getting local buyers coming in from Perth, they don't have all these conditions. So make the conditions favorable to you and obviously open to the seller as well to negotiate. I've seen some conditions that people put on there just not favorable to the sellers, right? They put time frames on it. This offer is valid until 3 p.m. tomorrow. Look, 3 p.m. we're dealing with 30 offers. We're not going to get back to you by that time.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. I know
Yeah.
what you mean. It's kind of like, sorry, you were gonna say?
Yeah, and understanding conditions, like understanding there's no cooling off periods in WA, understanding deposit. What is the benefit of paying a $10,000 deposit versus paying $1,000 deposit? Don't argue with the agent to say, hey, I'm only giving $1,000.
Yeah.
Show that you're interested, show that you're committed to the sale. And,
Yeah.
and then make the relationship with the agent as well, so they can then help you to get the property. Because remember, their job is to get the best price for the
Yeah.
seller. Your job is to secure the property because you're going to see that uptick.
Exactly, exactly. I think like one of the big pieces of advice I give to anybody buying in a hot market, right? And like if you want to buy like heavily discounted properties, don't buy in Perth, don't buy in Adelaide, right? These are vendors markets, right? Like they're sellers markets. You have to pay that premium to a certain extent, right? If you want to buy properties at a discount or lower end of the valuation, stuff like that, go to places that are buyers markets, your Melbourne, stuff like that, right? I think one of the things I tell people buying in sellers markets like Perth is when you're doing your comparables, your recently solds, look at the last 4 to 6 weeks, not the last 4 to 6 months.
No, yeah,
Because when people do sometimes I be looking at a property present and the client would be like, oh, this one 3 to 4 doors down sold for 580K 7 months ago. And I'm like, that was 7 months ago, right? Like this market has moved so much in the last 7 months, right? you can't uh, you can't be expecting to buy properties at a similar price to what it was 6 8 months ago. So it's like when you're doing your comparables, looking at your recently sold, try to keep it a lot more recent, like last 2 4 6 weeks, and even on top of that, probably take into account the growth that has happened over the last 4 weeks. I mean, like even in slide one, we saw that the last one
yeah,
month in Perth we're up to 2%, right? So on a $600,000 property, what's 2%? 12,000, something like that, right? So taking into account that the market is still moving and making sure that you're comfortable with your comparables and you're moving at the pace of the market, I think that's something really important. If not, like you're just going to be consistently underbidding and you're like, oh, I'm going to get something for a really great price. And then it's 7 months later and you haven't bought anything and
yeah,
prices are up 50K,
yeah,
right? So I definitely think going through that process, knowing what price you're paying for things and being comfortable with that price is really important. Yeah, I think we're pretty much done for the day. Any final thoughts, insights for the team, insights for all of our listeners, or happy to tie it off there?
No, all good, Jay. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I think, yeah, a couple of things. Just be clear on what you want.
Mm.
Ask the right questions. That's where you can actually get a BA involved.
Yeah.
Depending on which LGA you're buying, just be mindful of the zoning as well, because some zoning laws are not the same for City of Gosnells is different from City of Belmont.
Yeah.
So just get your knowledge up a little bit,
Mm.
and then really just make that relationship with the agent as well.
Yeah.
Get in touch, and then say hello. And a lot of us guys are nice here, and yeah, I'm sure they will help you out.
Definitely. Beautiful. Thanks for joining, Hasi. Really good session. So happy to have you on. Would love to have you on in the future at some point. Maybe even have both of you and Raveen on, make it a full group chat. For all of our listeners, again, if you're looking in that southeast corridor, whether you want to buy, hit up Hasi, or whether you're looking to sell, definitely hit up Hasi as well. Can organize a lot for you guys. Same from our end. If you're looking for the best deals in Perth, access to heaps of off markets and really good deals across Perth, definitely feel free to reach out to myself or anyone from my team at Zaki Property, and we can hopefully help you secure the investment that you're looking for. I always have to do a final sales pitch at the end, but we like to keep it short and